troubling succession of rulings, multiple judges came out against what feels like some of Trump's highest personal and policy priorities. There was the federal judge who ruled that Trump's name must be permanently removed from the Kennedy Center. U.S. District Court Judge Christopher Cooper said in a 94-page decision, the Kennedy Center's organic statute makes crystal clear that the center is to be named for President Kennedy, and it cannot bear any other formal name or public memorial based on the board's unilateral say-so. Congress gave the Kennedy Center its name, and only Congress can change it. Then there was the federal judge who put a hold on Trump and his Justice Department's efforts to completely whitewash the events of January 6th. U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta refused to dismiss the most serious criminal cases stemming from that day, the indictments against Oath Keepers leader Stewart Rhodes and his fellow supporters who were convicted on charges of seditious conspiracy. The judge wrote, the government has offered little more than a conclusory statement that dismissal is in the public interest. It provides neither a statement of reason nor the underlying factual basis for the request. In other words, the DOJ hasn't offered any facts or evidence to justify it. The judge is giving the DOJ until next Friday to back up its claims that dismissing the charges against these far-right militia group members would be in the, quote, public interest. And then there is perhaps the biggest rebuke coming from a pair of judges, both focused on Trump's $1.8 billion settlement fund that could be doled out to the likes of folks like those members of the Oath Keepers and others who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. A federal judge in Virginia has temporarily blocked the DOJ from creating the fund and barred them from giving anyone any money as the multiple lawsuits against it work their way through the courts. And the judge who initially oversaw Trump's lawsuit against the IRS that led to the settlement fund, well, that judge has ordered Trump to address the serious allegations that he committed fraud on the court and how he ended his lawsuit and whether the deal he agreed to was designed to improperly benefit Trump and his allies. Judge Kathleen Williams has given Trump until June 12th to explain how this settlement fund is possibly legitimate. Joining us now, Mary McCord, MS Now legal analyst, former principal deputy assistant attorney general for the National Security Division and co-host of the Main Justice podcast, and Will Sommer, senior reporter for The Bulwark. Whew, that was an introduction. Oh, my God.
Busy week.
Man, oh, man. So, Mary, let's start with the $1.8 billion, 1.776.
Now get the number right.
Billion. Yeah, because, gee, how clever.
Yeah.
This settlement fund, which comes out of the deal that was made to settle the lawsuit from the IRS. I'm going to play what Justice Shira Scheindlin had to say on Thursday with Chris Jansing, where she's like urging an inquiry into this deal. Watch this.
The court was really used, so to speak. There was a fraud on the court because this was a collusive lawsuit. There may not have been a real case and controversy because President Trump was on both sides of the case, right? He's the president and he's suing his own agency, which he basically controls. So it was a way of making a deal that would then support this anti-weaponization fund and his own immunity, which was never disclosed to the court. So when you have a fraud on the court, former judges care about that.
I mean, those are strong words. Fraud on the court, Mary.
Yes. And, I read the brief order by the judge in Florida yesterday, and basically she's saying, I've got the authority under the federal rules to reopen a case in order to look into whether there was fraud on the court and potentially even impose sanctions under Rule 11. And this is so important because I'll tell you, before she even dismissed it, as this was all bubbling up in the morning that we were learning about the settlement, I thought she should do an inquiry, but she, under Rule 41A1A1, dismissed it because, generally speaking, once a plaintiff has moved to dismiss a case before the defendant has answered, in this case, plaintiff being Donald Trump, defendant being the IRS through the Department of Justice, usually a court just dismisses it. But the reason she's looking into it is exactly what the judge said. It said it looks like this suit was brought specifically so that there would be litigation, so that they could then settle, so that they could then create this fund.
So there's the blowback legally,
yes,
but there's also the blowback politically, right? Well, Wall Street Journal on Friday, Trump's $1.8 billion settlement fund sparks alarm inside the White House. Quote, administration officials have grown increasingly concerned about the viability of the fund, people familiar with the matter said, which had been expected to provide payouts to an array of Trump allies. Trump hasn't agreed to drop the fund, but has told allies that he understands he has political problems with Senate Republicans, that people said. So it's like on all sides of Pennsylvania Avenue and the legal side of things here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was something that was initially so shocking that for like a day or two people were stunned, perhaps even the judge herself. I mean, people just had no idea that something like this could happen. And now we're seeing this pushback even from people like Senate Republicans, some of whom Trump has helped ensure that they lose their seats. And they're saying, hold up, you're going to give money, millions of dollars to people who assaulted cops. In the case of Stuart Rhodes, who we mentioned, someone who was stockpiling weapons in Virginia for some kind of, extreme coup violence. I mean, this is serious stuff. And now we're seeing that there are a lot of roadblocks in the way of this fund.
Do you think Trump cares?
I don't think he cares. I mean, it's interesting.
It's a rhetorical question.
In a way, I'm almost surprised he's doing it in the first place, because to be frank, I don't think he cares all that much about his followers or making sure that they get money versus himself. But, certainly he wants this money to get out there.
Mary, you just mentioned to Jonathan that the Trump administration could face sanctions. What type of sanctions? Like, what's the repercussions?
Well, I mean, there could, under Rule 11, that's a tool for the court to say, you've committed some sort of or inquire into misconduct, and sanctions could include penalties, including civil, fines, but could also include, bar consequences for the lawyers that appeared. And I think that's something I would be pretty worried about if I were one of the lawyers involved in this.
Could we talk about, move away from judges beating up on
do
Trump?
We have to?
Wait, do you have more to add? Mary, do you have more to add?
She could do this all
for
day.
Judges to flex some muscle yesterday.
Well, you know what? Actually, let's stick with this. I was going to turn our attention to the president going after his perceived enemies like Reid Hoffman and other folks. But it was an extraordinary day when you had all of these judges coming out with their decisions at a time when a lot of people probably felt like the government, the three branches of government, there weren't three anymore. Right. That Congress is what, Eugene? The holy staffing arm of the executive. Yeah. And there were more than a few judges who were willing to go along with, particularly the Supreme Court, with what the president wants to do. But judges in the last couple of days have been like, hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah, we still have a role to play, and our role, in fact, is to say what the law is, and that's what they're going to do. And I think you saw two extraordinary things yesterday. The decision by Judge Cooper, saying the Trump's name needs to come off the Kennedy Center. I mean, that's him just following the law, saying that it was Congress who created the Kennedy Center. They did it by statute. Trump can't change that. The Board of Trustees can't change that. These other cases, right, involving the slush fund, these are the judges, and even Judge Maida saying, I'm not going to dismiss this underlying criminal case so easily. A criminal case that, by the way, those who were convicted have already been pardoned or had their sentences commuted. But, they're saying, I think they're questioning maybe an abuse of the system, right? And they're feeling like the courts need to assert their authority and not be railroaded by this government.
And the problem is justice moves slowly, whereas Donald Trump has been moving very fast, which is where the issue has been. I will move us along. To Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman, for those that don't know, this is a guy who gives a lot of money to Democrats. This is someone who Donald Trump has said over and over in the past that he wants to go after. Let's listen to some sound of that.
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. that creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name? Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag.
Now, this is all connected to this DOJ probe of possibly E. Jean Carroll as part of this criminal investigation to a nonprofit that is funded by Reid Hoffman that helped her lawsuit here. And so it ties into, well, a lot of different folks that Donald Trump has an issue with. We've continued to see him using the DOJ as his personal arm, whether or not it's implicit or explicit to the DOJ to actually do it. Do you think this one is politically different than any of the others?
You know, I think it's unique in part because now we're seeing Trump and the DOJ go after private citizens, right. People who are not the former FBI Director James Comey, someone like Letitia James. Now they're going after, and I know they're saying, oh, we're not officially investigating E. Jean Carroll. I mean, from the reporting, it seems like that could change at any minute. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would really, hold back from doing that. I mean, we're seeing also, I think politically, ideologically, we're seeing this. The second Trump administration really uses its power much more to crush its enemies. And these are people, they're saying, we're going to go after groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center. We're going to go after wealthy billionaires like Reid Hoffman and sort of essentially scare rich people from supporting democratic causes.
Mm-hmm. Mary, what do you think about this from the legal perspective?
Well, so, this is something that footage, I'm pretty sure, of Donald Trump talking about Reid Hoffman was from when he signed NSPM 7, right, which is the National Security Presidential Memorandum, which basically directed all the power of the federal government, not just DOJ, but IRS, et cetera, to really crack down on what he perceived as, liberal organizations. He didn't use the word liberal. He used words like anti-American, anti-traditional values, and their funders. And that's when he specifically called out George Soros and Reid Hoffman. So I think this is sort of the administration now making good on what he intended by that NSPM 7. Same with SPLC, same with the charges against SPLC. This is a group that he perceives as being anti-traditional values. And, one thing about that National Security Presidential Memorandum is it didn't create new crimes. It didn't create new investigative tools, but it was a signaling mechanism. First of all, make this a priority, federal government, and it was totally one-sided, right? It was directed just at organizations that he perceives as extremist and violent and harmful, but only on one side of the political spectrum. And that's and for a long time, we hadn't seen anything really happening, and now we're seeing it happening. And that's a very dangerous thing.
We should point out that Reid Hoffman responded yesterday, responding to the DOJ investigation, and I quote, Trump's newest accusation of me is absurdly false. The premise of the investigation would be laughable if the subject matter weren't so serious. He is investigating me because I supported E. Jean's lawsuit, where a jury found Trump liable for sexually assaulting her, and a court of appeals upheld the decision.
I just don't know why Mr. Trump would want people to be talking about this case again.
Exactly.
What it's about.
It's like unforced error here.
Here we go.